Good evening. It is 7 p.m. on January 28, 2019. We call to order the regularly scheduled meeting. We would like to welcome Colleen Skornica, and she is appointed to complete former trustee Sleva's term. And we also welcome those that brave the weather with us this evening. Can we have a roll call, please?
Bryce?
Here.
Butsu?
Here.
Eschman?
Here.
George?
Here.
Hayden?
Present.
Robinson?
Here.
Skornica? Here.
Thank you. And next we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Mark, can you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know that.
All right, item number 4, we have the approval of our agenda. Is that in front of you?
So I was looking over the agenda, and for me, it's up to council to decide, obviously, but there are 2 items here that I think should have gone through the personnel committee. That being that we have some probably pretty in-depth dialogue here open, asking questions as to what the whys, the whens, the whos, and what fors, and what other communication we have there, right?
And those are items.
So it would be 2 of them, I think, under new business. I've got E, DPW staffing, and F, cellular phone stipend.
Okay.
My thought is, for council's consideration, that we, after tonight, I assume that we're going to identify the committee members, right? Or at least finalize that. And then maybe put that as a meeting agenda item for the personnel committee. But that's just my thought. Otherwise, we can dialogue it out here.
So that's either way, that's something we could address when we get to that point, as to what we're going to do, whether we're going to, right,
Okay.
pass that
That's fair.
or
That's fair.
discuss that. All right. That's noted E and F. All right,
Motion up there?
I'm waiting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All right. That would be Councilman Hayden, supported by Councilman Ashman. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Next, we have the approval of council minutes. In front of you, we do have 4 separate minutes, and we will take those in order, A through D, please.
Your closed session minutes are still being, okay.
Loading.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Yes. So if you have not yet, please sign. There are 2 separate packets of closed minutes, and those are floating back and forth. That would be the August 27th and the D special meeting and the closed session. Sorry. So let's start with A. We're looking for a motion for the closed session minutes. I make a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the regular meeting, August 27, 2018, as presented.
She hasn't seen them yet.
Second question for you on that.
Shouldn't that pass around first prior to?
We haven't seen them, how can we approve them?
They are, which one? Okay, so So that's this one here. So you don't need-
That goes with it. This one goes with it, and I think there was one more thing that was in there too.
No, I did it. I did it, yeah.
Which one is this?
Everything that was in there.
A and B would be our two that we need to ensure everybody signs.
Folder.
And I have the other.
This is December. There's a motion on the floor already, is that right?
So
Yeah,
it would be
support.
August 27th.
Did it
yes.
get support yet?
Support.
Now we.
No, that's-
Just like to note that future meetings minutes should be presented sooner than months after the fact. These are from August, so.
They actually were, for some reason, when they were brought to the meeting, they didn't make the rounds.
You're right, we just have to make sure that.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion by Bryce, supported by Skorinka, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Item B, those would be the minutes for December 14th. Included is the closed session, which we just completed, as well as the special meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting and closed session of December 14th, 2018 as presented.
Support.
Are there any questions on that one? There, done. Can we vote on that, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item C will be the regular meeting of December 17th.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 17th, 2018 as presented or amended. Support.
Any questions on that one? All right, and we have a vote on the December 17th, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. And last, we have the minutes of the special meeting of January 9th.
Motion to accept the minutes of the special council meeting of January 9th, 2019 as presented.
Support.
Was it?
Support.
Thank you. Any further questions on the January 9th? All right, hearing none, can we have a vote on that, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, you will find the acceptance items in the building department, the ordinance violation report, and the Brandon Fireman Department reports from our fourth quarter and the 2018 year in review as well. We also have the board meeting minutes from the Planning Commission, the DDA, and the Brandon Township. Thank you for those.
I'd just like to make a suggestion on ordinance tracking. If we could just change the house number to be before the street name, just switch those two columns around, and just provide an update to council about the open-ended issues that we don't have any follow-up on. You know, when we sent them their first notice in April, but we don't have anything that's a follow-up since then. What's the updated status on some of these outstanding issues?
I thought we weren't gonna, didn't we talk last meeting that we weren't gonna, if anything was closed, we weren't gonna put it on here?
Just if it had closed prior to that meeting, so
Oh.
the yellow ones were ones we'd closed since the last meeting, so next meeting those will
Okay, got it.
fall off.
Yep.
Thank you.
Typically, what I try to do is write just a brief note or something in the notes column to say what, you know, what's hanging out there, what,
Right.
why are they the way they are. But I can.
But there's some that don't have any date, so we don't, you know, like this one's April 26th, and then hasn't been anything done, there's no date. You know, the dates are prepared, no purpose required follow-up, but, you know, when was the follow-up, that was October, what's going on with it? Just to have it more in a, at least at minimum a month-to-month update of what's going on, rather than months that elapse and it gets too far away. Okay.
All right, item number 7, we have our disbursements. Entertain a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the disbursement report ending January 15, 2019, and pay the village bills in the amount of $28,995.99.
Support.
What's the support?
Larry.
Thank you. Are there any questions on those?
I have a question. On line item 14 and 15, the reimbursements for bibs and boots, $200 a piece. Were you able to find out anything?
Yeah, that's it's an appropriate expenditure. There's nothing in the law that would make that an appropriate expenditure as long as they're for, you know, it's directed for their uniform usage. That's what is in the budget.
Because I provided back when I attended that training improper expenditures, and if it doesn't serve a public purpose, it's not a proper expenditure. it's personal clothing, flowers.
No, it's work-related
Sure, yeah,
clothing, and
right.
so that's considered, it doesn't fit the, if you could treat it like a personal clothing, term personal clothing, then it would be like we were giving those guys a gift, where this clothing, boots, and bib overhauls were left in the budget, $500 to supply them work-related clothing and work-related boots, especially like bibs for, cold weather, boots for the cold weather. Those kind of things are considered an appropriate expense.
Bill, I
Based on-
understand that this type of clothing and boots helps protect them against injury and related to the work that they're doing for us, or DPW work?
In some respects, yes, and in other respects, in most cases, like for example, I use when they're out there doing the crack sealing in the streets, those clothes are pretty much disposed of on a daily basis almost, because that crap, you're not gonna wash it out, that tar, it's gonna get in their clothing and they're gonna throw it away, so what we did this year was a $500 budget for that type of expenditure in there, and I talked with the department head, Bob, and said, how do you want to allocate that to the guys this year? And he said, I'd like to allocate $100 for me or hold it in reserve, and I'd like to allocate $200 a piece for Pete and Mike to go out and buy new boots and bibs and like disposable shirts and stuff for when they get into this greasy, grimy type work or cold work and that, so. They spent more than that, but we only reimbursed at $200 each.
So when did they submit it?
Yeah, they submitted receipts for both. And they're very frugal with what they, because you get a good pair of boots and a pair of bib overalls, you're well over $100 there.
Why was Bob's $100 put on reserve? He didn't spend any money yet?
As a department head, he said, I'd like to reserve $100, and this is the way I'd like it divided. And I said, fine. It's your call, it's your budget, I want you to be accountable for it.
So we are or are not compensating Bob for his clothes?
If he turns in a receipt up to $100, he can get compensated according to the budget.
Right. And we're talking about clothes that are ruined on the job?
Well, and it's kind of a precursor, versus you could do the precursor and say, we made it abundantly clear, if you buy these bib overalls or buy these boots and you wreck them, we're not replacing them,
Right.
So.
I think it is a pretty common industry practice for
Yeah.
certain types of work to provide a clothing allowance for the workers. So
I agree with you, it's an industry standard, but is it a government standard?
Right, it's not.
See, that's the concern. I
It
mean,
doesn't serve
my
a
job
public
would do that,
purpose.
and everything else, my company would, but.
Right, it's not like, for me, it's not like I wouldn't like to, it's just, it's a different expenditure when you're talking about government taxpayer dollars. It's different than a corporation paying for clothing, that's all. And I have this information, if you would like to see it, about, like there's a municipality cannot give public funds away, and it's just it's a summary as far as.
And that's
like,
the same sheet I reviewed today,
Yeah.
and it talks about, like giving away gifts or giving away, like birthday cakes,
Right.
and buying
Coffee,
donuts, and
right.
buying food and coffee, unless it's associated with training, that kind of thing, but,
Right.
But
their bibs and
Gosh,
boots
I
does
would
not
think
serve a
that-
public purpose.
in my mind, it does. It keeps the employees, I
understand.
can blow it by the attorney,
I mean, I understand, that they need to be warm. I'm not disputing that whatsoever. I'm just going by the information that I received at the training and what's considered an improper expenditure and based on taxpayer tax dollars of what's allowable, that's all. Okay, that was a question I had.
I have a question for line number 26. clear, the 2,184 has been spelled out in terms of what we used it for there on that additional page. But what about the 273? So to me, our expenses for the attorney seem to be going up because we're using them, him or them for, so I'd like to have at least a line up. So if we're gonna expense this out, I'd like to know why we're calling them.
Okay.
So I think, I wouldn't say I'm saying I think council deserves, or the public deserves, why are we calling them outside of what this other page spells out?
Actually, I had a note on that as well, that if we could add, based on this, if we could add the parties involved and what was the purpose. I mean, we have the totals and we have the dates, if we could just maybe add 2 other columns, I think that might provide the purpose and the parties and what.
Well, we have a report that comes in, you know,
Yeah.
where they have to do
An itemization.
an itemization of it, so we can start providing that at every meeting where it
That'd be
says.
great.
Or simply have you got a nice running sheet here by month, right? And just have another sheet like that, I mean, just a running total, because
Yeah.
here we got a total of $23,000, right? Looks like we're totaled up. No, that's 17, 18 to 19, we're up to 5,000, but last year, 17 to 18, we were at 23,000, right? And that doesn't include the additional stuff that we may have used, right?
Trustee Ashman, so do you want, for the other expenditures, do you want a running sheet like we have here for that one expense?
Yeah, well,
Like a
and
running
then
total
the
with the
reason why,
purpose. Yep,
why are
okay.
we, yeah.
Do we want it on a separate piece, or don't we want it here?
You can
Just
include it on, you can
in
include it
the
on there.
description,
What
the
it was used
explanation. Not a whole separate
However you want it.
sheet, I don't think.
Whatever's easiest.
We
Well,
get
the easiest would be
an
an
invoice from,
Oh,
we
you do?
get an invoice that says,
Okay.
you know, copy 200 pages, did this,
Okay.
did that, you know.
Yeah.
So if you want that kind of detail, we can just copy.
I'll attach it to the
That's the
disbursement
easiest.
report.
Okay.
So you would attach it to this.
Yeah.
What was that page?
Do we have any other questions on disbursements?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the disbursement report.
We've already had
I'm
that.
sorry. Wake up.
We made the motion, then we have discussion.
So Zebby, we have more
Okay,
questions.
carry on.
All right, that would be, can we have a vote, please? All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Don't we need a roll call vote?
It's roll call.
Yeah.
You know what, we do. So let's go back to that. Can we have a roll call vote, please, Liz?
Certainly. Ashman,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Skornica,
No.
Bryce,
Yes.
Butsu.
Yes.
Okay. Motion stands 6-1. Item 8, we have our approval of the treasurer's report.
I just have a quick question. It looks like to date we're 95% paid. Is that what that's stating there? And then is that typical for this time of year to be 95%?
Yeah, they've got till February 15th to pay their taxes locally, and then if they don't, then they go down to the county, and the county reimburses the village taxes at that point in time.
I make a motion to approve the treasurer's report for the month ending December 31st, 2018, as presented.
Support.
Do we have any, that's with acceptance, sorry. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
And I'll bring that up next meeting as to why we should be not accepting the treasurer's, or we should be accepting the treasurer's report, not necessarily approving it. We need more detail. I mean, I don't feel comfortable approving a treasurer's report without seeing the specific detail. I understand the auditors requested that they want to have that on file as approval, but I think that we should be diligent in making sure that these numbers, or that we have more detailed information before we're approving a treasurer's report. I think we should just accept it, but approval should be something separate.
All right. Thank you for that. Next on our agenda is item number 9, and that would be our public comments from the audience. This is for our agenda items only, please, at this point.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. This is to explain to the,
If you don't mind, would you mind stepping up to the podium so that people at home can hear you
Hold
as well?
Hold on. Mr. Bailey, are you going to talk about the public hearing? So you'll have an opportunity to speak during the public hearing.
okay,
You're talking about the issue we're going to deal
okay.
with. So you speak then.
In
Good
just a minute.
afternoon. I off and on have met several of you, church, school, and so forth, and I've been in front of you all a couple times over the years. Always with good experiences. Anyway, I'm helping the Shermans make an addition to their house, both for a garage and a room as access.
If you don't mind, Bill, I don't mean to interrupt you. We will enter into the public hearing. If that's what that is about, then we'll be able to do that in just a few minutes, and you'll be able to talk about it at the public hearing.
Okay.
But I did say all agenda items. Anyone but that, if you have to share, that would be great. If not, just give us a couple more minutes and we'll definitely have you.
Okay, and I am
Share
kind
that.
of hard of hearing, so.
That's okay. I apologize, I did say all but one.
What do you want me to do right now?
If you don't mind, just wait a few minutes, we'll call you right back up.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
Unless you had anything else to talk about. Okay.
Sorry.
Anybody else, anything for public comments at this time? All right, thank you. Move on to item number 10, and that is our consent agenda. And with that, we have our special event permit for the Brandon Township Library. There's actually 2. They are the same day event. Two on the same day. One is the children's and one is the full 5K.
The same event.
Oh, I have to. I'm sorry. She didn't do it separate. There is one with the 5K and the Dewey Decimal at the same time. I had 2 copies.
That's why
I'd rather have 2 than none, right?
that must be where the copy ran off to that I was looking for. So that's-
All right. Can I entertain a motion for that, please?
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda item, the permit for the library run.
Support.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on that? No, that's consent agenda. That's not. All right. All in favor, please, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries, thank you. Item number 11, we'll have our trustee updates, and let's start with our Funsu. Kind of down the line.
Update. The fire board met the 9th, and actually it's going to be coming up on new business, so maybe we can wait to that, and I can, or Bill can jump in. It's about some protective equipment, and we want to staff the equipment on station number 3, so that's what that will be about.
Yeah, now with station number 3 opening, they need Lucas compression. They're well within, they have the money and the thing, but based upon the rules or authority, this board and the township board both have to approve it. It was approved by the, unanimously by the fire authority board.
Aaron, this one to you.
Okay, well, I see master plan is also another agenda item further down. under old business, so I think I will just wait to get more updates as we get to that agenda item, because that's been a primary topic with the planning commission, obviously lately, so.
Great. Dan, anything you'd like to share?
I don't have anything. The personnel committee hasn't met yet this year, but I guess we'll talk a little bit more down the agenda as to maybe a reason why we should meet.
All right. Thank you. Mark?
Well, if I'm still on the streets committee, I have nothing to report at this time. And we haven't
All
met
right.
this year.
They're okay so far? That's
Yeah,
good.
and other than, I saw Bob out there, or somebody out there, a couple of vehicles out there plowing the streets tonight, so that was good on the way in, so, good job.
Yes. All right. And tomorrow will be the DDA's all-day meeting. I was going to say in the morning. Everybody has received an email. You're more than welcome to come in. I believe 1 p.m. is the time slot, but if you can't make that time, they are flexible and you can come in any time. In your email, it shows the different time slots that are available. So feel free to kind of bounce around to something if it fits you better schedule-wise. They would love to see you. And that's all that I have at this point.
I didn't have anything either.
All right.
So just for the record, and maybe, have we identified, located who's going to be on what committee?
No,
We
that
don't
is
do
this
that?
evening because we were going to last and then we had the change in council. So we waited till this one to make sure everybody could
Okay.
get in there.
So we're
and
going to do
input.
that. So I guess that,
Absolutely.
Go on the up. Sorry.
All right. Are we good with that? Anybody else had anything in the way of committees? And we are moving on to number 12, which is our public hearing. We will enter into our public hearing at 7:33 p.m. to hear comments or input to decide whether or not to authorize the building official to issue a building permit to the village zoning ordinance of 6.602, 1-C, regarding the property at 144 South Street for a garage addition to the rear of the house on a non-conforming lot with a non-conforming setback. We would love to have you come up.
Okay. So, over here?
Please.
Okay.
So everybody at home can hear you as well.
Okay. Okay, I'm here to request a variance in side lot offset for the 144 South Street address. Right now, the offset is 10 feet, and we want to reduce it down to 7.5 feet to accommodate both garage and then an addition of a room above a garage. It's attached to a master bedroom. And the purpose of that room then is for the owners of the house to be able to have their grandchildren, which they have them now, close to them when they are older, but also to be able to create a situation where they can be able to look over their whole back field down all the way down to Kearsley River.
Can I interrupt, please? The question is being asked who you are again.
And what company you're representing, yeah.
What is
What's your
name, sir?
company?
Pardon me?
What, do you have a name of your company?
No, I'm not a company. I'm an individual. I am an engineer. I've worked on, I used to have a builder's license. And I know that stuff. And I've been in here for various times for splitting of properties from 20 acres down to 7 lots and so forth. You know, pretty familiar with all that stuff, really.
Wasn't questioning you on that, I was just asking what your name was and who you're with, that's all.
Okay.
What's your name, sir?
Well, my name?
Yes.
Bill Bailey. I'm sorry about
Okay,
that.
all right.
Bill Bailey.
Thank you. All right.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I actually have some meetings, actually, this next week I'm hearing, because I got to address that. I really do. I got some real issues on it. Anyway, the purpose of again, the variance request is to accommodate both the garage and the room above the garage. And the room above the garage is really pretty important because it gives you a good view of the back of the property. You know, and then that's, you know, the creek and so forth. The fire department apparently has looked at this and feel comfortable with the 7 foot, 7.5 foot outside. Because there's many places that are less than that actually. But that's apparently within their standard. In fact, apparently the standard could go down to 6 feet, but we're at 7.5 feet. So. Any questions on it at all?
I think is if that's all you would like to share with us, correct?
Okay.
Okay, then we are all set. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And what we will do is we'll go back into open session.
Are you going to get back to me on this? Okay.
Well, right now. We're
Okay.
going to do it right now.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so
Is there anyone
Yep.
else?
there is anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of the public hearing? All right. If we have no further input or comment on this, the public hearing is now closed at 7:36 PM.
Just if I may, Mr. Bailey's explanation where, because the only reason we're here really is because this is a non-conforming lot. Technically, on a non-conforming lot, when we did the measurements, you could go down to 6 foot for the setback and still conform, but because it is a non-conforming lot, it requires us to have a public hearing and the council approve it. So, Mr. Bailey and Mr. Denon have gone through everything. The fire department has looked at it, approved it. The village office has looked at it, approved it, and so has Mr. Denon. So we recommend approval of this authorization of the building permit.
I make a motion to authorize the building official then to issue a building permit for 144 South Street for a garage addition to the rear of the house on a non-conforming lot with non-conforming setbacks per the site plan.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Hayden, supported by Councilman
George.
George.
So,
Do we have any questions?
I do. So, so we're approving the variance, right? 7.5 feet. And then what about the building structure and all that permitting and the approval of that? Where does that, is?
Everything else has been approved. This is the last thing. They started construction. Everything else was in compliance with our normal
Building
codes. So the pole barn has already started construction. Building permit was issued a month ago, probably. And everything's moving forward. Everything was able to be either moved or moved around. DTE approved everything. So fire department approved everything. So we were able to move and maneuver and fit everything in there. The very last thing was this setback for this one addition on the garage. Everything with the garage addition is in compliance, with the exception of that setback that I already discussed.
So is the homeowner doing this on his own, or is he
Oh, no,
contracting
he'll
this out?
contract, he
He's contracting it out.
contracts it out, yeah.
A licensed builder.
Right.
So Bill, we had a conversation about that. Bill Denman was able to join us. You've sent us an email. Has anything changed at all? This is just wrapping all that up.
That's
Nothing's
just
changed.
wrapping it all up, nothing's changed.
Okay.
This is strictly, the only reason this is coming to us today is because of the setback. That's the
Correct.
only item that.
Correct, if our ordinance was the same, if our ordinance was the same as the township, it would have been an administrative approval, and we just would have had the fire department approval, and boom, we would have been done. So that's something we might want to look at down the road as far as, because we do have a lot of older, non-conforming lots kind of in the village. And
I do believe that had been brought up in the past at the planning commission about zoning variances and such as, yes, having administrative approval for certain types of processes.
Do we have any further questions? right, there's a motion on the table,
I would do a roll call.
and can we have a roll call vote on that? Please, Liz?
George,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Skorica,
Yes.
Rice,
Yes.
Butsu,
Yes.
Eshman.
Yes.
And motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to new business, and 13A, we have the fire department Lucas 3 chest compression system
Before we
request.
go any further, I want to make sure that Mr. Bailey was all set. You understand that everything's good to go?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I said, everything's good to go on your behalf. You were waiting for an answer, and I just want to make sure that you were clear.
Okay, one thing I should have mentioned is, fortunate on that project, is we got complete approval from Detroit Edison because of the lines, we're right close to lines. This all sets both below, we got their approval and all that.
Yeah, that was already mentioned, that you guys already had the approval.
So yeah,
yes.
just get with Bill
Okay, good, thank you very much.
Wednesday, and he can issue the permit now for the rest of the project.
Actually,
Thanks.
I think I am all set to do that at the
Oh,
office.
you are? Okay, get with Liz tomorrow, and she can, get with Liz tomorrow, and she can take care of it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. And Chief Wallace, did you have anything for us?
Apologize for my tardiness. If you have any questions on the fire department reports that I provided, I'd be more than happy to stay until later. So what you have in front of you is a request for the Lucas 3 chest compression system. It's just like our, it's a CPR device, basically is what it is. It's just like the other two that we have, just a newer version. The reason we're asking for that one is because we have manned Station 3 now 24 hours. So that will allow that extra hands off, if you will. We can put this device on, and that'll give that medic time to provide the drugs that are needed and the other stuff that is ancillary to the CPR compressions. If you have any questions about it. It's just like the ones that we had before. Some of you may not have been here when we had them last time. Basically, it's a suction cup type device. Wraps around the chest. It's a plastic, heavy-duty plastic device that has a motor on it. You bring it down to the chest, you hit the button, and it goes away doing chest compressions. It's amazing. It's amazing technology. Not something you want to watch, but it's amazing technology. So.
Is that something that we could like just look at, over at the station?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, would it take too long to set it up or anything like that?
It takes about a few minutes just to get it ready, but yeah, if that's something you want to do, let us know and stop on by, and I'd be happy to show you on a mannequin.
What's the life expectancy of that unit?
So far, the other ones we've had are 4 or 5 years old, and we've had real good success with them. So I don't know what the life expectancy is. The only thing is the batteries and the motor that's on there. So, and we have a yearly service contract that comes out, and they look and they double check everything. They check the batteries, and they double check the motor, and they double check all the fittings and connections and everything to make sure that it's operating within its parameters.
I assume that besides allowing paramedics more freedom with their hands to administer medications, also is probably valuable in extended CPR, because I know how fatigued you get after a very short time of trying to do CPR.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's got to be a plus factor.
That's probably the huge factor. That'd be the number one factor, is that to do the type and the quality of CPR that they're doing, you have to switch out people every couple of minutes. So you can go through personnel pretty quickly to that point. So that would be the number one. Number two is it gives you more hands. Before, when we'd have a CPR, we would have guys lined up. We'd have all these guys, and we'd be rotating them through. With the device, we actually have guys standing back going, what do you need now? What do I need to do now? What's next? Can I get this? Can I help this? We help the family get whatever they need to get, ready to deal with the situation that they have in front of them.
I have one last question. How many times would you say that you might use this device in the year?
That's a good question. I was looking for the actual stats. Just off the top of my head, I would say we've used it 10 to 12 times. So it comes in very handy. Not cheap, but very handy.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of one Lucas 3 chest compression system from
Physio
Thank you, Control,
Yep.
in the amount not to exceed $15,000 from line item 210.344.977.000.
Support. We're all over that.
Kelly.
Everybody supports it.
That's good.
All right. And that was Councilman Ashford, supported by Councilman Skornicka. Supported by everybody. All right. And then it's your budget. We do not need roll call, correct? Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
Yep.
I'll jump on the next one. I've provided both tonight some more information and prior to information on the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, otherwise known as Recreational Marijuana Act. There's several avenues you can move forward here. You could move forward to either do nothing as of right now. You could instruct me to start looking for, if you're so inclined as to go into the recreational marijuana business or allowed in the village, direct me to start looking at zoning and that kind of thing to allow that to come into the village, or you could direct me to, as I've prepared a motion here, to draft an ordinance to prohibit the establishment and operation of recreational marijuana facilities within the village limits.
I make a motion to direct our village manager to investigate the possibility of allowing medical marijuana, the recreational marijuana facilities and licenses within the village in respect of the vote by the citizens in favor of this act.
Support?
So
As a secret session,
through
please.
that discussion, you're in favor of the marijuana shops opening up in the village?
Well-
You're making the motion, so you're supportive
I'm making the
of
motion
marijuana
because I'm
being sold
supporting our
and
citizens as they
distributed
expressed
within the
their
village
will
limits?
through the recent vote, because they voted more than 60% in favor of this legislation. And just like other legislation passed, for example, when it comes to sewers, whether I'm personally in favor or not on a particular item, I have to respect the will of our community in that respect and say, okay, sewers, we say no because that was the vote. Here we have a vote where they clearly said yes by 60% plus, and I feel that we should respect the citizens' expression of their will. Accommodate.
Advance conversation. Feedback, something?
Can I get a clarification on the motion? I've got a motion to investigate the possibility of having a facility.
To direct Bill to investigate whatever's required in regards to licensing of establishments or whatever relation to the law. Basically, just saying, hey, find out more information and bring it back to us.
Okay, what is required for? And you said something with the respect of,
Yeah, based upon
in
the
respect of the
support
citizens.
of our residents in favor of the legislation.
Okay, thank you. Did you want me to read this back?
Might be right.
Okay. To direct the village manager to investigate what is required for the licensing of a facility in support of our citizens in favor of the legislation. It kind of doesn't really flow.
Well, I think aren't you identifying recreational marijuana sales?
Direct Bill to investigate
The licensing.
licensing requirements.
As defined in the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act. Was that true? You said Judy?
So the motion that we have here is opposite of
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a suggested motion. I feel like we should follow what the will of our community is. That's
Would
fine.
you mind reading it one more time before we, so we know what we're discussing?
Okay. To investigate what is required for licensing as defined in the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act in support of our citizens in favor of the legislation.
You could really just use the motion that's already here, couldn't you? Instead of saying prohibit, just say investigate and keep, I mean, so it's basically,
Okay.
this is the same. Couldn't you use the same motion, Larry? I mean, that would be, he made the motion, that would be up to him. But for simplicity.
Yeah, we can just take out draft an ordinance to prohibit and replace that with investigate.
So read that one back, Liz, because whoever seconded the motion has to approve the
I was gonna say, at
modified
this point, hold
motion.
on.
Okay.
The said ordinance would not be introduced, that would be crossed out as well.
Yeah, that would also be crossed out the last sentence about said ordinance to be introduced.
To direct the village manager to investigate an ordinance.
No, to investigate the establishment for operation of marijuana establishments. Or let's see, to investigate the requirements for establishment or operation of marijuana establishments. Does that sound?
That's fine.
Okay.
Of the establishment.
Okay.
To
To
investigate the requirements.
Okay, to direct the village manager to investigate the requirements for the establishment or operation of marijuana establishments as defined in the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act. Do you want me to add in favor of the citizens? In support of our citizens, or just leave it at this?
Ortonville citizens, or citizens in general.
Well, this is the
Define as
village.
citizens.
Well, that's why I said based upon the support of our residents at the last election.
Okay.
Ortonville residents.
Yes. Precinct, what are we, precinct six?
Six.
Yeah, based upon the results of precinct six.
Based upon results of precinct 6.
Yes.
Okay.
That was one of the things I wanted to know when this topic came up, is what were the results? And I could see, when I checked the results, we found out over 60% of residents in the village voted in favor of that.
65.5%.
That's almost 2/3.
And that's in the village.
Yes.
If I could interject something here, I think primarily people that voted yes was for the general concept of use of recreational marijuana within the law, not necessarily to establish recreational stores. This would just be individual use of recreational marijuana, so I think, Larry. And then I can see where that would
Well,
be
they voted in
support.
favor of this act, and that act includes, how do you license and distribute the product to people who want to use recreationally too, and that's all covered in the act too, so.
I think there, let's go to places that do.
Yeah, I think that we definitely should investigate. I mean, if we find out that there's no reasons to not license, we should be able to encourage it. I think we need to at least do our due diligence and try to investigate what would it take, what are the benefits to the community, what are the possible downsides to the community, and weigh all the different aspects of it. we do have a clear desire from the community to allow recreational marijuana. The question is, how are we going to deal with that?
I still think that's different though, establishing a store.
Yeah, well, we're not saying we're at this point, my main thought here is, let's not block it at this time, let's leave it open, get more information, have Bill get more information, bring it back to us. That was my main thought with putting a motion in this direction.
Do we have a second already?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes, I did.
Do we have a date that we have to have something going on? I know that we have a moratorium out there already, but do we have a date that we
Yeah,
have to?
the moratorium has nothing to do with this.
Okay, so,
That's totally separate, so, no, there's, but I would encourage you to start moving along, because once the state approves, before they thought that the state might take up to a year to approve the process, for lack of a better term. That is kind of the way I understand the new law, is they've made that to where that's the end date, so they could approve something sooner, and if you don't have something on the books, then you're fighting after the fact, so.
Yeah, and I also understand that based upon the legislation, that there is potential taxes and such that will be coming back to the communities that allow these establishments too. So there could be some additional revenue stream based upon this new legislation that could impact what we can do in our community for our residents.
I don't have all the facts, but it's my understanding that federally, it's still legal. And when you open up like one of these shops that people are suggesting, that the money goes through the banks, which are federally backed and everything else, and so there becomes a conflict there. I think that was one of the issues that was brought up with the township, and that's one of the reasons why they turned it down. There was concerns for that matter. So, just want to bring that
I
up.
don't recall seeing that in the.
Yeah, they cannot use a bank. They actually have, the bookkeeping is totally separate. But with that aspect, I was just going to state with the township has kind of put a little bit of stall in theirs as well. Residents have come forward and reminded them that the people had voted. And as you read in your township minutes, and if you watch the township video, some of the council members have said, hey, can we just stop a minute and get more information? And that's what my goal is more information. I don't think we can know where we stand when this was just given to us and this is all new. And if the state doesn't know what they're doing, I don't know how we can, and we can make these decisions. That's my personal opinion. Also, some of the entities around us actually made their decision before the vote was even made. And that's not fair to their residents, and their residents have had a backlash about that. And that's a concern to me. We now have something in front of us that our residents have given us. Let's take the time to evaluate that, not forever. I know Bill said there is an end time. But that's where I stand on it, not on a decision, but on educating ourselves and making the correct decision based on our feedback from people.
And I think Trustee George also brought up a good point too, which is that, we also may need to reach out to citizens, get some clarification or get some public input from them in a little more direction regarding this topic, because if they are under the, I don't know for sure whether, as he said, it's just because they said, well, yeah, I think we should allow it, and they didn't understand all the implications about opening establishments and such, but I think we owe it to our citizens to do our due diligence and investigate this thoroughly before we take any preemptive action one way or the other.
some of the small towns and villages that currently have the shops available for recreational, there's a lot of issues there in those communities. And I can direct you to a few of them if you'd like to read them, but they're having a lot of issues with the shops that they do have, so.
We should definitely consider that information too.
I was just saying that.
I haven't seen enough of that information yet to really fully understand all the aspects.
Trust me,
This
I know
is such a
Bill's
new
there too.
law. I think I think nobody really understands all the ramifications yet, so that's why I think we need to do our due diligence, take our time, and
get more information.
All right. We have a motion on the table, and can we get a vote on that, please? Hearing nothing else? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Motion does not carry, 2 to 5.
How do you know it's 2 to 5?
Can we do a roll call?
I think it'd be best we do a roll call.
I get confused on that. I thought if you're
Yeah,
voting
it's gotta be a roll
no,
call.
say
You
yea.
can't do 2-5 when we get.
It's going to be yea. Okay. According to the-
So any council person can request a roll call. Has there been a request for a roll call?
I did. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any request for roll call? Skornikoff?
No.
Bryce?
Yes.
Butsu?
No.
Eshman?
No?
George?
No.
Hayden?
Yes.
Robinson?
No.
So now that we've talked a little bit further, I'd like to read another motion. I'd like to make a motion. I'm going to amend the motion that's in here just slightly to include within Ortonville village limits, all right, after the word act. All right? So I'd like to make a motion to direct the village manager to draft an ordinance to prohibit the establishment or operation of marijuana establishments as defined in the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act within the Ortonville village limits, said ordinance to be introduced at the February 25th, 2019 village council meeting.
Support.
And Mark, that was you, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I can't tell between the two of you on that. All right. Liz, just for clarification, can you read that before we vote?
You want me to read the motion?
If you don't mind, just to be sure.
Motion by Eshman, seconded by Butsu, to direct the village manager to draft an ordinance to prohibit the establishment or operation of marijuana establishments as defined in the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act within the Ortonville village limits. Said act to be introduced at the February 25th, 2019 village council meeting.
And I think this also should be a roll call vote.
Do we have any further questions on that at all? All right. And Liz, can we please have a roll call vote?
Bryce?
No.
Butsu?
Yes.
Eshman?
Yes?
George?
Yes.
Hayden?
No.
Robinson?
Yes.
Skornikoff?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-2.
The next subject I've communicated with, we have an opportunity and have been approved if we get past the motion here tonight to secure the funds in 2023 for a $225,000 grant for a sidewalk project along Oakwood Road on the south side. This does not, just for reference sake, this does not prohibit us from starting pieces of the project earlier. What this does is just in fact locks up $280,000 in 2023, $56,000, $56,250 of our matching funds and $225,000 from MDOT in order to finally get that project done and completed. Hopefully we can find other money sooner than that, but this,
So-
go ahead.
I have a question. So that being said, I think it's great that we're finally narrowing down this Oakwood sidewalk project. This motion doesn't say we're going to apply those dollars to that sidewalk project.
But but the project I submitted does, and I've attached a copy of that here.
Okay. All right. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the, let me start over. I'd like to make a motion to support the acceptance of the 2023 MDOT Small Urban Program Grant for $225,000 and assure matching local funds availability for a minimum of $56,250 for this project.
Support.
I heard Mark Robinson.
I heard Mark.
I was louder.
I'm trying to save my voice.
I was too slow.
All right, do we have any questions on that? All right. Thank you, Bill. That is definitely something which you know we've really all been working hard towards, so we're excited. All right. Can we have a vote on that? And Bill, we are not spending it yet, so we don't need the roll call, correct? Liz?
No.
All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, that would Bill?
Part of what I've been doing is going through in my spare time and trying to find gaps or holes that we've had in policies that were required by law, and one of those that were required is in fact the Social Security number policy, privacy policy. It is required by law. I'd like to take authorship for this, but I didn't. I happened to be talking to our attorney on the phone, and he had one already on the shelf, and all he had to do is modify it slightly, so he provided this for us so that we could meet that requirement. So I would like your approval on this policy, and then we will include this, I'll implement it immediately with the employees, but we'll include it on the policy manual.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Social Security number privacy policy as presented.
Support. Take it.
Motion by Councilman Skornicka, supported by Councilman Hayden. Any questions on this? All right, can we have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And next up, we have Bill.
Yeah, these two subjects that were brought up earlier, both the DPW staffing and the, I've sent out a memo on both of them. You have the background on it, and again, you can either approve it tonight, or, as Dan had said, refer it to the Personnel Committee. I would like to take, obviously, I wouldn't have put it out if I didn't want you to take action on it, but it's, Pete's been here for almost 2 years now. I'd like to move forward on something with him, and then what we're finding is I am using probably the cell phone as much with Beth and Liz as what I do with Bob, to get information to them, to talk back and forth, to click back and forth. And I know Liz also is getting a lot of calls, and Beth gets calls from various people in the village, although we haven't published their numbers. God and country, but it gets out there. It gets out there some way. And
Well, can you help me to understand, are they receiving calls after hours on that, or what?
occasionally,
I mean, why are
No.
we disturbing them after hours? You know what I mean? So I want to raise the question, because, when you're off, I would think.
when I find those people, I'll hunt them down and tell them stop bothering those people after hours, because most time it's not me, other than a quick text or something that says, hey, got a meeting this morning, I'm here, I'm there, I'm out doing sign patrol if you need me,
I mean, is that, especially texting all that, is that costing them extra money for them?
I'm unaware of
Usually
it.
nowadays, it's free texting, or, it's unlimited.
Yeah.
I'm unaware of it.
Actually, that's a good question, because keeping in mind what Colleen had brought up earlier, I can definitely see that DPW, when you're doing that work, you wear out that equipment. Reimbursement makes sense, but, is to your point, and I think that most cell phones, I would have to first see that there was actually a real cost to the employees that needed to be reimbursed, is what my opinion would be. Because if you already have a cell phone and there's no extra cost for the calls that come in incidentally related to their duties in the office, I I would want to just verify that there's actually a real cost there, and then reimburse the actual cost rather than just give them $20 a month.
I would like to suggest that we refer this to the Personnel Committee, and then, based on the Personnel Committee's decision to bring it before council, and then council can discuss it further at that point to allow it to investigate it.
Can you check with Liz and Beth and find out
I was
if
just gonna
there's
say,
any
Liz, would you
additional?
just mind sharing kind of what it would look like to you, what you're used to receiving?
It's not that I get charged extra money, but the texts I get are from Bill, from Beth, Matt Jenkins, Bill Dinnan, former council person, another DA person, Bob.
Are they all after hours, or is that?
It's not that they're after hours, it's
Using your
cell phone.
And I know you two switch Fridays,
Yes.
so therefore then you're in contact with the other person, because I know I've come in and asked about the question, she called you when I was there.
Yeah.
And I know I needed help Thursday evening, and you had to respond after hours. So, I mean, I know there's items here and there, I was just curious as to how often you think that. But even during the day, you're using your cell phones.
Mhm.
Right.
But if it's not costing her more money, don't take this the wrong way, and you're within business hours, you're basically paying her extra to pick up the phone. When
Well-
it's not costing her, but
Okay.
what we would like to know is how many of those are after hours where you're being bothered?
Let me put it to you this way. Then don't contact me on my cell phone.
Right,
Right?
I agree.
right. They
I
should come
agree.
in the office or make a phone call to the office
I-
phone.
I-
Or email, you know.
And it's like how your personal cell number got out to anybody that
Yeah.
shouldn't be. I mean, I don't know how that, but
Well, because I feel Liz feels the need to help people. I think she should be penalized. I mean, the way I take it is, you're asking how did your number get out? I hope we all are available after hours. I mean, I don't feel that's a penalty to her
Maybe
to
us
wanna
as
help.
council, but not so much these two, you know what I mean, or Beth, you know what I mean, so, but. I know my work, they don't pay me for the cell phones, I use my personal cell phone, but most of my calls are work related, you know, but I don't even get money for that, so. And you might be in the same situation, you know, being IT.
Actually, my company provides me a company cell phone.
So, I agree, maybe, you know, it needs to be looked further with the personnel committee than that.
Is that, we kind of jumped off, is that E as well? We haven't discussed E.
when I was speaking to E and F, yes. Those items.
Anybody else input on E?
I think they need to be discussed through the personnel committee, and once we vet out all the specifics, the personnel committee comes to the council with a recommendation.
All right.
I
Anybody
wouldn't be
else
opposed
information on
to-
either one of those?
I wouldn't be opposed to what's proposed for E, or bring Pete Fennell in, but I think it would be appropriate to have it reviewed by the personnel committee too, before we make that decision.
I agree with that.
So it's consensus or tabled, you don't need a motion, so just table it. To
Okay.
refer to personnel committee, both items.
Please. Next, we have G, that would be trash hauling discussion, and that would be Pat.
Yes. I guess what I'm actually looking for here is consent and approval from the council to look into a more efficient way of handling the trash pickup in the village of Ortonville. Now, I apologize for all that paper that you had there. I don't know what that means either. I just put it in there. But that's putting the cart before the horse. All I'm looking for tonight is the okay to pursue this. And if you all did get this copy of a survey that I did recently, I just, for my own information, wonder what other communities around us are doing with trash hauling. The bottom line on this, I've been in the village long enough to know that there are people I talk to, that there's a fair amount of consent that And then just to state the obvious, so the way we have it now is individuals in the village basically contract with the trash haulers independently and get billed independently. Well, the situation we have, we've got a number of trash haulers in the village. We have a number of different days that these trash haulers are operating. We've got trash out in front of the houses on different days. Lots of noise. They've got the regular truck. Most of them have recyclable trucks and things like this. To me, I just think we can do a much better job of this as far as cutting down. I guess what it really is coming down to is cutting down the number of trash haulers and/or days that they're operating in the village. And what I did, just so we can kind of see on that survey, I don't want to go into a lot of detail on this, but so we have Ortonville, Brandon Township, and Groveland Township. And again, you can get the other columns for just informational on the size, square mile size of the area we're talking about, population, number of households, and how the trash hauler is chosen. So you can see for Ortonville, Brandon Township, and Groveland, it's an individual choice. And those letters there, I just think it's the big three that I see. I want to mention something also on this. I'm not saying this is 100% accurate, but this is reasonably accurate. The big three trash haulers I see in the village are community services, advanced disposal, and waste management. Those are the big three. And on the flip sheet there's other waste haulers. I'll get to that later. But that's pretty much the big three. How did I get the annual cost? I took me, myself, and Pat George. I get a senior rate. I went with community, which, as far as I know, is the cheapest of the three. And there's where I came up with the $216. I get billed $54 quarterly to get the $216 rate. I don't think anybody I've seen beats that. And again, maybe some of the waste haulers I have listed here do. $300 is what advanced disposal is charging. And for those of us that are unaware, advanced disposal took over from Smith's Disposal out of Clarkston. And I use Church Street as my microcosm of the universe. And most of us use Smith's for years and years and years on Church Street. When Advance took over and put their rates in much, much higher, that's when a lot of people started switching to community services, including myself. So all those red containers and things, a lot are switching over to green, which is community services. So that $300 was the price that I would have paid Advanced Disposal if I would have stayed with them. So there's where I get our annual cost. So all I basically did on this, I want to get neighbors to the north, south, east, and west and see what they're doing. So Goodrich, for example, I'm up in Goodrich pretty much every Wednesday, and I see those nice big blue containers out. That's Republic, and they pay $168 a year. Because I want to mention something also, if we're allowed to proceed with this, I'm not going to touch it if we can't beat these costs we're already paying on what we're being charged. But you're going to see here, pretty much everybody can beat it. So Goodrich pays $168. Atlas Township uses a different disposal company. They say that number is correct. $108 is what their citizens pay. And that's for curbside pickup, that's for recyclables. And again, don't quote me exactly on this, but then you would have basically curbside pickup, recyclables, seasonal pickup of yard waste, which would be grass clippings and leaves in the fall through April through October on that. So that, and so on and so forth. Davison, I say the city of Davison, 210, Davison Township. I got a call back from Rhonda. They pay $116 a year. I know it's blank on your sheet. So Davison Township, where it's blank on the annual cost, that's $116. You'll notice also here, with the exception of Ortonville, Brandon Township, and Groveland, every single one of these right now is through special assessment. All right. And my understanding, and we can look at this further, special assessment is somewhat different than raising a millage or adjusting the millage rate, which has to be approved by the voters. But special assessment, from my understanding, is you're going to have two public meetings. we're going to come out with our recommendation if it went this far. And then on a special assessment, you have a meeting where the people come in and voice their opinions. I've been alerted on this, get ready for some major blowback. But that would be that, and then ultimately the village can come up with whatever they want to do. And I'll say this, and I'm pretty much done. If you look at Clarkston, Independence Township, for example, they right now, I say various because I don't know who they really choose, but they're also on an individual basis. But I can tell you this, so if you look, I guess to simplify this, if you look at Goodrich, Davison to our north, you look at Oxford to our east, if you look to Holly to our west, and you look at Clarkston to our south on an immediate basis, 3 out of 4 already have plans in place where they do it through a special assessment with one hauler. And Clarkston right now, the last point I want to make is that Clarkston, Independence Township, if you look on page 2 down there on the bottom right inside the box, I'm referring to it affectionately as the Rochester Hills Consortium. When I called Jonathan Smith in Clarkston, he informed me that I think it's been within the last 2 weeks, they met at Rochester Hills, they being Clarkston, Independence Township, Waterford, Holly, Orion Township, and I don't know if Lake Orion's in there or not, all with purposes of trying to get their waste disposal situation more efficient. And by that, I assume they mean going to a single hauler. So that's pretty much the information I have. I know, I think procedure-wise on that, if you wish for myself and us, we're all in this together, to pursue this. And I know history, this can's been kicked around the block a few times. So I'm hoping this time we might be able to do something useful with this council. But I know ultimately Bill will get involved. I know Planning Commission will get involved, and we would proceed that way. So I guess what I'm asking is, do I have approval from the village council and for Bill to continue with this? Do I have the council's blessing on that? And I'm not afraid of that exactly. That's what I'm looking for. And if you got any questions or discussion, go for it.
I have a couple. So you're asking council to consider a strategy, maybe an ordinance, that would minimize the amount of trucks that beat down our roads, tear down our roads, right? Yeah. It would minimize the blight in terms of the amount of trash that you see on a weekly basis out at the curb due to multiple day pickup. You're talking about reduced truck traffic / noise.
Yes.
You're talking about even maybe affecting somebody's pocketbook by reducing their costs.
Yes.
What's the downside?
I can't think of it.
Do you want the downside?
I was gonna say, there's a lot of things. Those are great
I'd like to hear 'em.
downsides, but.
I'd like to hear.
It's the selection. It's the individual selection, because when you go to one contractor and you place that out for bid, whoever's, you're talking roughly probably $100,000 contract across 500 or whatever, so that would go out to bid. So it'd be you put specifications in, but the low bid would get it. So,
Not necessarily.
Yeah. You have the choice of
A lot of times there's limitations about, how many, containers or whatever, and, how many bags or whatever.
Yeah, if they're not, if we say, hey, we want you to bid on providing an apple, and they give us a quote for an orange, obviously, that's not necessarily, but I have seen that before where they say, oh yeah, well, we include all these extras. And I think if we are clear enough on our specifications that we put out there, we should be able to get, hopefully, closely apples to apples types of bids, and then just be able to go with whatever's the most reasonable. But I think
and I'll need to do some research regarding the establishment of a special assessment district, because what research I've done to date, it's not quite as simple as having 2 meetings. It's, those 2 meetings that you talk about, one is to approve the special assessment district, and the second one is to approve the necessity of the project. And what I've read so far is, in one case, and I need to verify this with somebody who, you know, and this is gonna cost us a little bit of money to establish this, but in one case that I've read, for certain applications, you need to get a petition signed by 51% of the people affected. Don't know if that is applicable in this particular case, but we need to do some more research on it.
So I was gonna say, I think that's our question is
Right.
further research.
Right.
Exactly.
So any of us feel we're ready to decide? No, I think we all feel more
No,
research would be
I'm-
necessary.
I'm-
Is that something we'd like to do? Would we like to
Absolutely.
continue?
But also, I'd like
Research.
to know the scope, is Oakwood and Granger gonna be carved out of this? Is this gonna be special assessment to, you know, to the, if we're village taxpayers, then we're paying for that, but because Granger and Oakwood, is it, you know, is that gonna be carved out, or is that gonna be included?
Because of the board being on the board, you mean, or what? Why-
Because-
why,
Like the website we're saying?
Because, yeah, because, we're, you know, they're county roads, and, I mean, it's only gonna go down so far before you get into the township, and it's not village anymore. Are you gonna say that only people, you know, on Granger from here to here?
Well, a special assessment district, you can only have a special assessment district for those that you control unless you brought,
And so we have to carve out Granger and Oakwood.
not
No.
your side.
Village.
Oh,
Include
so,
No.
okay.
northern
So
No,
then it
it's
will
in,
still
you're
be-
still in the village limits.
Yeah.
so-
Right, okay,
So, you know, the
so,
Oakwood, south side of Oakwood would still be in the village limits, and north side of Granger would
So-
still be in the village limits.
so still would be having, we could still, are still gonna be having a lot of trucks go down Oakwood and Granger, but, yeah,
You can't control that
Right.
because you're on the border.
right.
Yeah. Bill, I do
So, Pat-
notice that there's, oh, sorry, I should have. Okay, I do notice that there's 5 communities listed in the worksheet that trustee George provided that already are doing special assessments. It seems that you could potentially reach out to them and ask them what process they had to follow and find out what sort of hurdles they had in setting up that special assessment. That might help get a better understanding of what we would need to do without having to have an extra cost up front.
So Pat, what you'd like to do is to continue to research.
Yes.
Would you like all of our questions? So as we're spouting out questions right now, could we kind of guide them to you and
Yes.
throw things at you as you're researching? Would that be
Yeah,
possible?
Definitely.
Sure.
think it
All
might
I'm
be a-
looking for right now, when I read my resolution, it would simply be, you know, that the council gives us permission to pursue, you know, purchasing a more efficient method of trash pickup. And that's it, just very general right now. We get into these specifics later, things like that. But I know the people I talked to, it was fun calling people. They were just very open and, with the information. I told them if they shared it with me, I'd certainly share back to them what we got. And Jonathan from Clarkston told me that he would definitely include us in the loop. I think on your sheet it says we're members. That's not true. Yeah, what we are is we've been invited to share information. Okay, that type of thing. So, yeah, I think it's exciting, and maybe I'll get into it, and we'll get into it more, and we'll say, well, that's why I keep kicking the can. But I know, obviously, people around us have been successful in doing it, and the big thing is the cost to the citizens is lower than what I'm currently paying now. It's my only basis.
I think there's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to suggest maybe what we want to consider then in this case, if we want to pursue this, is maybe forming a subcommittee to work together to research this topic.
Well, I know I'm going to at least go to the planning
I
commission,
think
right?
Pat's on it.
That's definitely
I think Pat's on
my
that.
fault.
Oh, I'd be a member of that committee.
No, but wouldn't we want as council, first of all, to agree that it is a good idea that our village manager take this on and provide that information that we need that may or may not be missing, right?
For the special assessment.
Yeah, so for me, I think we need council consensus that it is a good idea, and we build research it further for us.
Yeah. And personally, I'm having fun doing this, so I don't have any, and as my wife likes to say, Pat, you don't have a job, so you have more time about it. So.
And I'm
You
not
just want to play in the
bashful.
trash.
I'll take no,
Bill, I do have a job.
I haven't talked with you.
All right, so what is council's recommendation, feedback? What are we looking for?
It's just the
Okay to go forward?
consensus, but
Yeah.
we're okay to go
Okay,
forward.
go forward, yeah.
Anybody have any issues or concerns right now? Okay. All right. So, Pat, we look forward to more. Thank you.
Thanks for doing it.
Thanks for having Bring more questions.
Moving on to item H. Bobby, Mary.
And I'm gonna jump ahead of Larry if you don't mind. Last meeting asked me to get bids for Christmas decorations, and this one is time sensitive because every single Christmas decoration company that I talk to has their mega sale between 30 and 40% that goes through March 1st. So you gotta buy it before February or miss 30% sales. So if I can explain my little chart that I gave you, the numbers that you see where it says replace the garland for the office and the old town hall, and then just a note that this is what DPW has been requesting for 3 years. Those three numbers you see below it are the three bids that I got. And those are the three low bids that I got. I did in some cases get a couple more. The next one you see is replacing the wreaths with LED bulbs. The only thing, in talking to Bob, the only thing we need to do on our wreaths, they're in good shape, is actually replace the bulbs because the poles are getting older and those incandescent lights are drawing more power, and that's why you see them go out every once in a while. They're kicking out the poles, and so Bob said if we could replace them with LED lights, wouldn't draw as much power, wouldn't have the issues that we currently have with, and they would be better, and the LED lights would last about 10 times longer, plus draw a tenth of the power, so. And then the last bid was the one I got for wrapping the poles with garland and lights. The lowest bid I got for that was $34.60. So the total, if I did all three of them, would be $6,395.36. Left in the budget for Christmas expense this year, we're down to $983.55. So if I did the whole project, I would need a budget adjustment for $5,411 and change. What the staff is suggesting for this year is that we do a $2,000 budget adjustment and buy the first two items prior to the sale going off. That is just our suggestion. We obviously will take whatever guidance you give us. Bob has also made me aware that the lights on the Christmas tree are incandescent and they are getting old, and those we will have to replace the actual strings and cords and stuff with them at the same time. The lights, that looks like it'd be about $2,000 range, you know, probably can get by next year with it. And then I don't want to make anybody really sad, but Bob is worried that within about 3 or 4 years, maybe the tree itself is going to have to be replaced, the big Christmas tree, because it appears to have some issues. So we're going to try it in the spring, try to see if we can't get someone take a look at it and see if it's like a disease or something we can treat. But he says we're getting some pretty big gaps in it right now where dead branches, and he doesn't know why. So, but we may eventually have to replace that tree if we do that.
Could we buy a real one and over the years and just keep it trimmed up?
Yeah.
Buy a real one, then
Yeah, oh, you would, yeah, I mean, that would be, but you're talking probably a couple $1,000s to cut down the tree and then
No,
pull out the,
to plant one, buy one, plant one, and then every year it's already there, it's already existing.
oh, that's what we're talking about. The big Christmas tree and
Yeah. But when you're saying about buying a new one,
that big spruce, the 30-foot live tree that we put the Christmas lights on,
okay.
Bob thinks it might be dying, hopefully not.
Oh, I thought you were just using dying as a...
No, dying,
Gotcha.
dying as in kick the bucket.
Okay. Well, we did have
Pass on.
decoration, but we did have a budget for Christmas decorations. I don't recall, $5,000 sounds, what we did have was
Was
that
two.
right? Was
Yeah,
it only
2,000
two?
I think
Christmas.
you mentioned before we had about 1,500 left in that budget
I
right
know
now.
we did four
Well, now we're
Christmas
down to
decorations.
900 because we
Okay.
had, for example, renting the cherry picker to put the Christmas tree lights on is $350. You know, the incandescent lights, different things that went wrong. You buy those as you go along.
Yeah.
You know, the luminaries, we bought new bags, new sand, new, it's,
Where are we getting these things from?
there's various.
Just, okay,
I
there's
went
not-
like nationwide. And
Okay.
the worst
So you
part
didn't
about,
bid-
the
you
worst
didn't-
part about Garland is the shipping cost. The cheapest one is like, for an example, it was like, and don't quote me on this, but it was like $1,200 for the Garland, but it was $600 for shipping.
Mm.
And it was because it's just,
The village needs an Amazon Prime account to get that.
well, we do have one now. We've established one, so we're starting to buy off Amazon.
Gonna say Bronner's.
Bronner's is one of the bids, and they were lower on shipping. They were only $125 on shipping.
Well, I drive and
But
get
they
it.
were,
It's like-
they
Was
were-
that through
but
an
it comes
internet?
out of a, it's like Amazon, because I
Comes out of
said
the
that.
warehouse.
I said, can I drive up and get it? And they said, no, you're taking it, we ship it, and we've got a factory somewhere, and that you're just taking the Bronner savings on shipping.
Did you try to entertain the lower bid with Bronner's and say, hey, if you match it, we'll buy it?
We'll try. I negotiate everything, because this isn't a sealed bid situation, so.
There's sometimes coupons for 15% off. at
These are
Bronner's.
30 and 40% off.
Oh, you probably
That's
can't
what-
double up on coupons.
Yeah, so so my question is, if you want me to pursue part of this, any of this, what do you want me to pursue? Because then you give me a budget adjustment and tell me, okay, do this and
Yeah,
that. and
I was
go
gonna say, I know
for it.
Larry
I think
initiated
based on
the
feedback I
conversation.
heard during Christmas that said, hey, the wreaths are looking kind of faded, and they'd like to see things be a little bit spruced up around the town. That was where the thought of adding the wreaths, but I think looking at the budget cost for those, I think that we should probably focus on our existing ones first, and as the staff suggested, maybe just postpone additional stuff. Now, Bill, would we, I'm assuming we would need to first adjust the budget and then make a motion to purchase?
Nah, you can do the purchase and then do the budget adjustment, we're doing it the same night, so.
Okay.
So I just want to quick, you say low bid. Did you go up and just search on the internet for these prices, or did you actually bid it
Called.
out?
No,
Have
I
you actually
actually
sent
called
out-
and I sat there and went, okay, like on Garland, and I didn't bring the list with me, I need 8 of them 25 foot long, I need 3 of them 7 foot long, and they've gotta be, I'm getting proficient on Garlandese here, because they gotta be a 12-3-1 Garland too. Can't be don't give me a 16-4-2, it's gotta be a 12-3-1, so I'm talking Garland with these folks there. And so the second guy I called, by the time I got my ear bent on the first one, he says, you know what you're doing, don't you? So, yeah, I had to compare apples to apples, and
Okay.
I actually physically walked them through each one, and they shot back. Now, the bulbs are easy, because you just say, hey, I need 1,080 LED D7 bulbs, multicolored, faceted. What do you got?
So you're going to screw these into the existing sockets?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
yeah, you just replace them,
The
just like
wires are
normal.
still in
Yep,
good shape?
Yep, wire's still good shape, the Garland's still in good shape. When we start replacing these wreaths, we probably should do it on a routine basis or something down the road, because those things, normal costs are like $500 a piece now.
On the wiring, yeah, because the LED bulbs are going to last so many years, you know what I mean? Is the wiring going to hold up, or are we going to have to try to
Should.
replace the wiring?
Should. I mean, you obviously can't guarantee every one, but you know, it's a heck of a lot easier to replace a couple of those strings a year under supply expense than going through like
Okay.
this and hitting them. Because you got, I think it's 30 bulbs per reef and 30-some bulb, I don't have the math. Well, I didn't bring the math, I'm sorry.
I'd like to take advantage of that savings right now.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna need it anyhow. We're getting a 30% discount, so maybe we should split it up a little bit, but take that immediately.
Well, the way I look at it, the first one, we've already said yes more than once, and we've just never followed through to do that. So I feel that has already been budgeted, and that should have already been done. No fault of anybody. We already addressed that. But the second one, then, would we take that on as this year and do the first two? Or just do the first one budget-wise? What is our thought?
I think we take our recommendations.
Yeah.
We'll do the first
Yeah,
two. That's what I'm saying.
$2,000 done.
Okay, since there was a line item I brought up, I will make a motion to authorize village staff to purchase replacement garland and wreath bulbs from Christmas expense line item 101-299-881.1010.
Support?
Where did I get my support from?
Rob's
Robin.
support.
Thank you. Do we have any further discussion on that? All right. And that will be a roll call vote. Please, Liz?
Buxton,
Yes.
Eshman,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Skorica,
Yes.
Bryce,
Yes. Motion carries.
One correction on the next motion, that budget item, the first one should be, line item should be 101000699,201.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize and process a budget adjustment in the amount of $2,000 from general fund, line item 101-100-699.201 to Christmas, line item 101-299-881.010.
Support.
I'm just double checking, that was the correct. Bill, the second one, line item was one that was corrected, not the first, correct?
First one.
The first one. Okay.
101-000.
Right, okay, all right.
699-201.
Okay, so
Thank
the
you.
second set is 000?
Yes.
0, not 101.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And let's do a roll call vote on that, please, as well.
Eshman,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Skorica,
Yes.
Bryce,
Yes,
Buxton,
Yes.
thank you very much, motion carries. Next, we have item I, and that would be the Deputy Eric Overall Memorial Highway designation. You have included in your packet a copy of that bill. There was an article in the paper, I just wanted to highlight that again with us as well. And that would be the portion of the highway, M15, which begins at M15 and 75, continuing down through the northern line where it meets Genesee County. That shall be known as the Deputy Eric Overall Memorial Highway. And next month, we will be highlighting the Purple Heart Highways.
So is it still, is M15 still considered heritage highway by the state? Heritage highway? It is.
It's a heritage, is it a heritage highway or heritage route?
It is a heritage route.
Heritage route?
I think that's what it is.
Yes. Heritage route.
I think that's specific.
M15 Ortonville Road. Heritage route.
And
We can look that up for.
does the township get any money for that from the state because it's of that designation, or is it just a designation, do you know?
Well,
Well, the
They-
Heritage Committee
Yeah, the Heritage
all
Route
pays
Com-
into it.
Yeah, and then they wind up getting, it's another tool to help get grants and things for like trails and side work and kind of pressure that it shows up. Part of what they, on some of these grants, they say, is there evidence of a government multi-government cooperation? Are guys getting together so that, you know, it's not just Ortonville or not just Lapeer or whoever doing it on their own. So that's the advantage of it.
Thank you. And number 14, we have our unfinished business, starting with the master plan.
The McKenna's supplied a draft version of the master plan to the planning commission the last time. There were several corrections that needed to be made and several changes, deletions that needed to be made. Those have been, after we met with the planning commission, I met with McKenna and relayed those, Liz and I relayed those changes to McKenna. McKenna has made those changes. However, they sent a link over for the changes today, and about 15 minutes after they sent the link over, they said, oops, we found a couple other mistakes. So they're sending me another link tomorrow, and they will be able to, correct me if I'm wrong, but the next step in this will be that the next meeting, if all the things are corrected, they will then move to forward the master plan for review to the village council. So I would expect the village council to see it in the month of March for review.
I would ask that when those are distributed, that they are distributed well in advance of our packets.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, I'm hoping we get it before our next planning commission meeting, which is next week, and I haven't seen anything yet, so. Yeah, I would like to add on that, since I'm also on the planning commission too, is that we were a little bit disappointed that there were certain things that had not been up to date in there. I know that some people have expressed some frustration at the length of time it seems that this is taking to put all this together, but I can assure everybody on the board here that the planning commission is doing their best to do their due diligence. And what we're doing when we're doing this currently is we're focusing on two areas. Number one is to ensure that all of the input and feedback that we got through the joint meetings, through the input from the citizens and everything else is collected and accurately portrayed in there. And we have in the past found that there were items that we had said, hey, this needs to be in there, that needs to be in there, and they had not been in there yet. So we're making sure that all the things that are supposed to be in there are in there. The other part that we're doing is we're also reviewing, because this was taken from the previous master plan as a template, is to ensure that all the information that was carried forward is still valid or is either updated or removed. And that was one of the big issues we came up with at the January meetings. We found there was an entire section that had been left in all about sewers, and since the vote from the community, that was totally inappropriate to still be in there the way that it was. So we had to take that out and ask them to go back and clean all that up, all those references that they had in there for that. So we're doing our best to try to make sure everything is just the way that we want it, based upon all the input that we have from the community and the government bodies. And we're just waiting for McKenna to bring us a copy that includes all the changes that it's supposed to have and the way it's supposed to be.
All right. Item B will be our rules and procedure, continuing to work on that project.
yeah, I forward, Dan has made some what are good suggestions and that, and there's some in there that you guys need to talk about, whether you think that which way you should go with them. But there's some, obviously, we didn't get it finished, cleaned up till today, so my suggestion would be have a chance for everybody to take a look at it. And this is one of these that, yeah, we should have done a long time ago, but, you know, there's no clock ticking right now, so maybe we can schedule it after review for the next meeting.
I agree.
All right. So this will continue. Everybody has a copy of that we received today.
All of these changes were yours, Dan, the ones in yellow?
I think it was a combination of Bill Sprague and myself.
There are some things like, if you know, the very first paragraph, a great point Dan made that, you know, we didn't have an introduction, you know, and why are we doing this? So, and it's, you know, and it flows real well, and there's some other things where Dan has found that, you know, we didn't really phrase it right.
And I noticed that under the, on page 14 and 15, Ortonville Planning Commission, that they completely struck out what Karen and I had worked together to try to put together based upon all the input we had, and then now that's been completely replaced with a completely different
Yeah, so
section.
the difference between the two was that the original was an excerpt of a very small portion of what the village law handbook stated. So you could easily interpret it one way when in fact that's not what the village law handbook was trying to do. So what's in here now is taken right out of village law handbook, so there is no interpretation and there is no cutout of a piece, so leaving it up to interpretation. So that, all this right here is taken right out of village law handbook.
Well, but my thought there is the actual legislation that defines exactly what the Planning Commission does and does not do are two acts, the Michigan Planning Enabling Act and the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, which is what we referenced in the paragraph that Karen and I had came up with. And that really is the legal basis for the Planning Commission. The Handbook for General Law Village Officials is only a summary of what those laws contain, basically. So I don't see why we, if we just are going to repeat word for word what's in the village law handbook, why not just say Ortonville Planning operates according to the village law handbook?
Perfect, I love it. I love it.
That's why I wanted to keep it short and simple and just reference it.
But that doesn't say that. That doesn't say that, Larry. It takes only a piece and you can interpret it differently, all right? That's why Karen was so upset when she tried to get things written. You say you worked with her, but Karen was very upset after your discussions with her to where that ended up being, and she didn't agree with it. So my point is I had to dig into, okay, why didn't she agree with it? I went in there and compared village law handbook to what was proposed to go in there, and now I understand why. And what I'm doing is taking out all the subjectivity out of it, and I'm pulling it right from the village law handbook.
If that's what we want to put in there, that's up to the council. But I'm just frustrated that we keep going back and forth on this topic. It seems like there's a lot of nitpicking over just the wordage. I would prefer just saying, this is under this authority, and leave it at that. If people want to see more details about exactly what we can and cannot do, they can go directly to the legislation. That would be, I think, the best way is keep it as short and simple as possible, and just refer to the enabling legislation.
I think this spells out exactly what the village law intends, how the planning commission to be operating, and it even cites in here, see handbook, village law officials, and it talks about the Michigan Municipal League 2006 updated as of 2015.
Yeah, it's nice and clear for me at least, and I think others, it's right here for you, without having to reference the same thing, basically.
Yeah, that's what I said, is that if we already have this, and if it states this exactly in this, then I just don't see the point.
But it's a general update.
But this is our rules of procedures, so we're talking about something that we can take and say, this is our rules of procedures. No kidding, this is what we follow, so.
But the only
yeah,
thing
you're right.
in this is our purpose and scope, not the rules and regulations. So it's inconsistent. I think that's why we talked about that one. It's inconsistent with what each does, the fire board, the historical society, the DDA, and the planning commission. We're not talking about what the rules are, we're talking about what the purpose and scope is, period.
Yep.
And we can have
Yeah, I
both,
mean,
but to have This
And that's-
inconsistent
this
with
is
the rest is where the concern comes in.
Yeah, that is,
And I
that's
know
another
that's why
thing, is that
the
we
two
try
of
to
them
make it more
aren't,
consistent with how the rest of the bodies were described, as opposed to taking something that was completely different type of formatting from the, or way of presenting from the way the rest of them were. Because all of the rest of them are covered in the village law handbook too, so why not replace all the verbiage we have there with?
Well, the Ortonville Community Historical Society is an asset.
And
kinda
I
this
could
and
not
that.
find verbiage for the personnel committee as it relates to village law.
Maybe not,
handbook.
but definitely
I could
they
not
do
find
have
the
it
Parks
for
and
downtown
Recreation in there.
development.
So again, if we're going to cite this, specifics, to me, we take out the subjectivity of somebody reading it improperly or just taking a piece of it, and you put in there exactly what village law states. You feel free to review it.
I think it's clear
One of
that
the-
whatever we
one of
put
the
in
good
here, we
things-
have to
One of the
follow.
good things that's about rules, about these rules, is that unlike some of the other things, you're only required to review them on an annual basis. But in addition to that, there is no lesson. I mean, if you find something is not working,
They can be changed.
it can be changed on a
Absolutely.
monthly basis. I mean,
Document in progress.
literally, you can change this thing as you go. It's supposed to be kind of like a guideline to help, how are you guys going to operate your council meetings?
It's a living document.
Yeah, so if you find something's too restrictive or something, you say, gosh, this really didn't work the way we wanted it to. So I wouldn't be afraid to take some chances, is what I'm saying,
Yeah.
It's-
Well,
Living
right,
documents
seeing that
always
we're-
need to be updated, like the manual.
Right.
So that will be a great focus for us to complete up in February and wrap up. All right, item C, we have our 2019 subcommittee appointments. And you have the paper in front of you. We will go on down the list. DDA, that would be Bryce. Fire Authority, Art Butsu. Historical Society, Colleen Skornica. IT and Website, Colleen Skornica. Parks and Recreation, Pat George. Personnel, Mark Robinson, Tanya Bryce, Larry Hayden. Planning Commission, Larry Hayden, and at this point, still Tanya Bryce. We will be discussing at the next Planning Commission meeting about Planning Commission now pursuing, finding a replacement for that. And for streets, we have Dan Ishman. So this is our current, and it will update, like I said, as they proceed to do their thing. All right, item D, we have the communication preferences.
Do we have to agree to those?
Mhm.
What?
Yes.
We have to agree to them?
No, they're appointments, but if you have a problem,
Well, I
I'm
just
happy to
wondered-
hear from you if there's a concern.
Yeah, that's, wasn't where I put my interest at. So I was just wondering why.
Where did you put your interest at?
Personnel. to
Which,
remain on
I was gonna say,
personnel.
every day, and I'm more than happy to talk about it with you afterwards, but we are all, everybody's kind of wanting to be all on the same committees, and it's nice to have everybody try something new and different. We are all on something that we have not been on, and we're
Right.
going to kind of figure out how things work and how things are going to help our community.
But if you have a specialty in some place,
Yeah, you should go where, there's strengths.
right.
and where there's strengths and interest and how it fits into your schedule, but we can talk about it afterwards.
All right, thank you. Item B, communication preferences. Liz handed out the form again, just double checking, are we good? Is there any updates or anything needed?
I need trustee Skornica's.
Nothing's changed, the same as you contacted me before.
Okay. Do I have everything right for everybody else?
If not, please get with Liz and verify.
Or that's how being delivered. It would just be like on the porch or something. I just don't come out of it. So you're just saying, what is it, PU?
So there was something left off of unfinished business. There was the Ortonville Wildlife Preservation Park sign that was supposed to be worked on, and that seemed to get dropped off there. Where is that at?
I got it on my manager's report, be on the manager's report. And all I need, if we put that kind of on hold till we decided, what we were gonna do from a village standpoint, is my understanding, like entrance signs, are we gonna do wood, are we gonna do metal, are we gonna do, commonize the signs, is what we talked about before. I'm glad to take any direction if we wanna, if you guys give me some direction what you want related to the wildlife park, I'm more than happy to research and get it done.
Well, I know that Trustee George is on the Parks and Recreation. I'd like to work with him on maybe some recommendations for council to consider on on that sign.
I know on the planning commission, we have, talked about the importance of having consistent look and feel of the signage. So I would just like to make sure that any signage that we put up there, that we take in consideration having a consistency.
And I think the council has said that too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we want to have consistent signs, because we've got a purple sign here, and a wood sign, and a metal sign, and
So maybe also take into consideration some of the, what we want to do with the entrance signs too, in terms of that, whether with, type of style of fonts or colors and things like that.
All right, so we're on item 15, and that would be the village manager's report. And did you want to do B and A and then jump around?
unless you have any questions, just to highlight a couple items, the fact that unbeknownst to me, when I said what I wanted to try to do this year is get, clear up these audit policies that have been on there for 5 years or whatever, trying to get these various policies in here. I didn't want to overburden you. I did include in your package a conflict of interest policy that I wrote with the lawyer didn't write, so if you guys want to take a look at that. And again, these policies don't have to be anything, we're not Detroit. So these policies don't have to be really super in-depth, they just have to cover certain aspects of what the auditors were wanting to see versus, you don't have a huge office. So I supplied a conflict of interest policy. I didn't want to talk about it tonight because you just had a big long agenda of stuff to talk about. So if you can review that, maybe give me some recommendations of changes. And now that you have a personnel committee, if they want to review that also, that'd probably be a good one, because that's something that needs to be included in our personnel policy manual, is conflict of interest policy, along with the other two as I work on the fraud and the business continuity plan.
And those you'll be bringing your suggestions to us for those two?
Yeah.
Thank you. Did you want to highlight the Old Mill building?
Oh, yeah, the Historic Society is right now trying to come up with a plan to, and they've made contact with me and they would like to add for lack of a better term, a blacksmith 12 by 20, I believe, building down to would be the the west side of the schoolhouse. And what they would like to do with that is probably put like a little cement patio out front also, and have a few times a year actually have a blacksmith come in and put on a demonstration. But other than that, they would have the display of various things, because they have stuff in the old mill that is blacksmithy type things that they'd like to move out and kind of make that a historic display. Funding for this project, because I asked if there was any village funds that they're requesting, and they said no, they would do the fundraising themselves to do the project, and they'll come with us to design. The only input they're asking from the village right now is, are we opposed to them proceeding with a project like that? And second of all, would we, obviously it's not going to be heated as they proposed right now, because that was one of the questions I asked. But probably the ongoing expense that the village would have would be the insurance with the building. So they've asked me to get a quote. It's kind of chicken with the egg thing right now until I know what the building is, until I know what they come up with an actual process. We can look at some ballpark stuff, but we can't hammer it down until we know a little better what they're doing.
I'm looking at the man right there. I mean, what are your initial thoughts about something like that for insurance, for a blacksmith type facility and that?
Personally, it can be done. And as I told them, the crew that's looking at that is, let's talk about it, kind of give me a conceptual idea of what you're trying to do, and then we can go and we can look at all the codes. I've talked with the building, Bill Denon as well, to make sure that we meet all the different code requirements that are out there, make sure there's a safety thing. So I think it can be done. I think it'd be kind of very cool, and especially if you can get something during the summertime down there where they could do some displays. I think that'd be really neat.
Yeah, if you want to.
I agree. I'm just only concerned about the insurance cost kind of thing.
Right. I think there's some safety things in there that they can do to minimize the potential risk.
If you want to look at what they're kind of talking about, you can see them online if you go and put blacksmith forge.
Oh, I've seen them do it.
And it's, you can get them anywhere from $200 to several thousand, and what they're looking at is. Matter of fact, I think Ryan bought one over the weekend from an antique store.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that works still, and he's going to donate it. So, but it's pretty cool.
Bill, one question about the Phragmites treatment. I see what you're talking about village-wide. Is this primarily focused on areas where the Phragmites is causing issues with the drainage, or just village-wide treatment in general? Or what?
Well, I think you have to do, if you were limiting the funds, if the funds are limited, you want to focus on those areas that are causing backup problems and drainage problems and that kind of thing. But in order to cure the problem, you got to treat it, village-wide, basically.
Which I don't know if that's really even possible, considering how much of it's probably on private property that's not within jurisdiction of the village, just to go on and treat and things. And as I mentioned before, I would also like you to investigate somewhat to find out and to make sure that these treatments are going to be safe for the environment, since we do have sensitive areas like our wildlife preserve.
Yeah, you have to have that I can answer now. You have to have a permit to do this, and B, you have to be licensed or certified to do it. And those chemicals that you use are part of that process to make sure that they're not, because 90% of Phragmites are going to be in a ditch or in something that goes into our water.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's mostly going to be related to wetland type.
Yeah, so you got to make sure that the treatment stuff.
Didn't you just say earlier in a couple of meetings back that Bob was trained?
No, we are trying to find a way. Bob is not trained. Bob is not certified. Bob, we are looking at, and his thing would be very, very limited type treatments.
Oakland County was here, probably about a year ago, and gave a presentation, and the lady was doing it for volunteer. And at that point, I thought Bob had already went through and got his certification, the training, because I thought that was already supposed to have happened. So actually, to hear that this hasn't quite happened yet, because I remember asking you when you first came on. I'm not sure, what or who dropped the ball there, but that was already part of, that's why when we bought waders too, because he was going to be going into the water and having to do that. So I'm not sure what happened there, but the county came and gave a presentation, and they knew like the certain areas to be treated that were in the village, and was going to take Bob out and show him, and I don't know what happened, but. In the spring or whatever.
All right, anything else for Bill? We will move on to number 16, and that is our public comments for non-agenda items only. We invite anybody to come up and share with us.
20 Wells 4 North Church Street. President Bryce, Manager Straight, Councilman. Question, I have not seen any, if I've missed something, perhaps that may be the case, but I've not seen any progress reports at all with respect to cleaning of the open ditch creek along Church Street that was started last year. Obviously, you know, it's weather related, so we've got some really cold weather coming up, which is ideal for doing that kind of dredging work. Obviously, we need DEQ approval, permit, which it sounds like that's not that difficult to get. And that has to do with backup of water and drainage. So what is going on? Anything? Nothing. So there's been no progress, there's been no discussion at all. For the citizens that are getting flooded out in their backyards along the west side of Church Street, all the way from East Ridge down to across Mill Street.
This is public comments, we don't.
I understand.
Yeah, this is
I
just to
understand.
hear
I'm
your
asking.
comments, it's not a response.
I'm making comments and I'm asking. Secondly, I have been in dialogue with Chief Pappas about the use of equipment, specifically known as turnout gear, by the fire department. These firefighters are allowed to take their equipment home with them. It is used for a public purpose, which I see very little difference between the turnout gear of a firefighter to protect them from injury, as opposed to for the public good of Carhartt gear for our own DPW people. So just bear that in mind. Just another couple pieces of information. I'd like to know what the progress is on the CIP for the village. Capital Improvement Plan. Haven't heard anything lately on that. The reason why I bring that up is that the DDA is in the process, and I'm spearheading that, the DDA had back several years ago their own CIP. And some of the items on that, properties and so forth, were totally out of line. And the DDA probably will never have any kind of money to take care of those projects. So I would just soon eliminate those projects. Covered bridge over the bridge in South Street, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, we need to coordinate that somehow or other. Also, with respect to your comments about signage, the DDA is working on what we call wayfinding signage. So whether you're out on M15, the signs that are currently by Brandon Chiropractic and across McPhee's, to spruce those up as far as putting arrows or something to direct more people into the downtown area. So I just want to let you know that these things are going on. It's a question of coordinating those. And I think to that point, I think what our DDA director would like to see coming up is a presentation by the DDA as to what actually they're doing. We talked about project briefs and letting you know, the council know ahead of time what's going on as far as little projects. But overall, we'd like to coordinate all that together. So those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wayne.
Anybody else for public comments?
Well, Wayne brought it up, so I got to say it. I just want you to recognize how important and how hard your DPW works. They're out there at all times of the year, all increments of weather, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing, and they do the best job that I have seen in a lot of villages, and you should be very proud of them. And just one thing I will leave you, you take care of your personnel, and your personnel will take care of you. So make sure you take care of them. They do a great job. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Item number 17 is our items for our trustees. Going to start, you want to work
start.
this way?
Yeah, no, I know. That's right, I'm gonna see that. I just want to thank everybody for their support. I've received several emails, and congratulations that I've been reappointed to the council, so thank you, everybody. Also, the luminaries were another beautiful event. I'd like to thank everybody who came out and assisted in making that tradition again in 2018. Let's see. There's a couple other things, but I'll table that till February. I would just like to ask if the calendar for the 2019 dates can be put out on the website too. I think it was just January and February.
They are on the website.
Oh, was that just
All year?
recent?
The whole year? Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that then. And then just a note to the citizen, I would just, a couple of the articles that I've seen don't quite have the report information quite accurate, and just a note to make sure that the information reported is accurate. Nothing else.
Is that cool? I have nothing at this time.
I have nothing in terms of from a village trustee standpoint, but I did hear, surprisingly and sadly so, that Lee Pelshin's son did pass away, and I was not aware of it. And really, to me, it's heartfelt, and my thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family. I'm sure he's going through a hard time now. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I'll also say the same thing. My son Logan and Lee's son Nick were good friends. They've known each other since grade school, so it was really quite a shock to us when we heard about his passing. So of course my heartfelt and my family's heartfelt wishes go out to Lee and his family too. I do just want, because I didn't mention about capital improvement plan during the Plan Commission report before, but since it was brought up during public comments, I will say that that is something that is a work in progress, and Bill has made a lot of really good updates lately, and I think in respect to where the status of that is, we know we have our budgeting coming up, and we also know we have the finalization of the master plan, which will potentially have some additional topics that might need to go on the capital improvement plan. So I'll just ask you, DDA and citizens, please be patient. It's a work in progress, but it's getting closer, and I think that in a few months we should have something a little bit more ready for prime time, so to speak.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to mention a visitation. Remember, tomorrow is visitation at Village Funeral Home for Nick. Wednesday, Bridgewood Church is the services for Nick. And yeah, that's just real sad, real tragic on that, I believe. And I want to make a point of clarification on this whole trash hauler thing. The stuff I read to you on the survey, that was me. But I have reached out to the Planning Commission and Lee, and subsequently have been in touch, because I know that this I say has been wrestled with before. And Lee referred me to Melanie Nivell. I've been in touch with Melanie a couple of times, and she has been very helpful to me on information in the past regarding it. I will continue to tap into her resource. I just want to make sure we know that. And that's pretty much it for my standpoint.
Thank you.
Nothing at this time, thanks.
All right. And the only other thing I have, which people have touched on already out there, but we would just like to thank the DPW again for their wonderful time. We see them all night long, especially today. We love them dearly, and we appreciate everything that they do.
Indeed.
And can we please entertain a motion to adjourn?
Support.
Motion made by Hayden, supported by Councilman Butsu. Thank you very much.